Yes, guys, in this video, we're going to be going through the campaign structure. How exactly are we going to set up your meta ads so they bring in high quality leads? So to initially find the area where we're even going to be creating our meta ad campaigns, you're just going to log into normal Facebook. You're going to go ahead and click on Ads Manager. That is where anything happens that is associated to running ads. This is what it will look like when you log into your normal Facebook account. And if you see it on the toolbar on the left, you'll see one that says Ads Manager. All you need to do is click this. And if you click the right bit, it will take you to a screen that looks something like this. Obviously, there's no ads in there at the moment because we haven't set up any campaigns. So whenever we're launching any form of meta ad, it's actually constructed of 3 levels. The first level is something called the campaign. This is where we're going to be setting our overall goal of why we even want to run ads in the first place. So for us, that's going to be to generate leads. There are a few other options, which I'm going to show you in a sec. The second part is something called the ad set level. This is where you are going to select what audience you want to target, set the budget, your schedule, and where you want the actual ad to appear. And then the final level is obviously the ad. This is primarily the ad creative, so your video, and then you can also add other elements to this, such as lead forms, headlines, and ad copy. In this video, we're initially going to go over the campaign and the ad set setup, then we'll do a separate training, what you need to do on the ad level. So the very first thing for us to do is going to be to go ahead and jump into Ads Manager and click a button that says create so we can actually start building out our campaign. So when I do this, I'm going to go ahead and click the green square in the top left that says create. And then it will ask me to choose my campaign objective. The one that we're always going to be picking is going to be leads because we are generating leads for our clients. In terms of what the other ones mean, I've gave you some definitions here. You won't need to really worry about these though. The one that we're always going to be selecting is leads, which is when you collect someone's contact information for a form or a message. Remember, when we're running these ads, someone clicks on it, a form is going to pop up. They can enter their email address and their phone number with the expectation to get this free consultation from your ad. I'm going to go ahead and click lead, and then I'm going to click continue. When this pops up, you can just ignore that. They have loads of different ad promotions all of the time. You can just completely ignore these, okay? This will actually build out our campaign. This is what it looks like on the left. At the top, we need to go ahead and name it. In terms of how I want you to name the campaign, I've just wrote out for you a mini template here. Obviously, the goal here is to be taking on loads of clients, so you're going to be managing loads of different campaigns. So it's very, very, very important that it's all kept very neat and organized. So if you follow a structure, you're going to be able to just glance at a campaign and know what it is. So at the very start, you're going to write the word cold. Cold is referring to us showing an ad to a cold audience. A cold audience means someone that's never heard of us before. You're then going to follow that with your agency name, and then you're going to be following it with the objective. So for us, it's always pretty much going to be leads. And then you're going to write the abbreviation CBO, which I'm going to explain what that means in a sec. So we're going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to type in cold space line space Kiora Marketing, whatever your agency is called. I'm going to write leads, and then I'm going to write CBO. There we go. If you scroll down here, you will then see a section that says budget strategy, and there are 2 options. There is something called campaign budget or ad set budget. We always want to be clicking on campaign budget. I've ran thousands of different ad campaigns. Every single time I campaign budget or campaign budget optimization, which is what CBO means, these pretty much outperform every single time. What ad set budget means is you're going to see in a minute, we're going to break this campaign up into showing it to different audiences. It just means that each audience gets equal spend. For us, obviously, that makes no sense because we want the algorithm to put our budget into the audience that it thinks is the best. So if you do campaign budget optimization, then it just does it by itself. You don't even need to get involved. You're also going to notice there's a section on the right here that says Advantage Plus Leads campaign is turned on. You always leave that on. Advantage Plus pretty much means when you let the algorithm go outside your targeting parameters, if it thinks it can improve your campaign, these algorithms nowadays do 90% of the work for you. Like running ads, I cannot describe to you how much easier it's got with the emergence of AI and all this stuff. So whenever you see that stuff, it's always going to help you. You can kind of ignore your campaign score here. I haven't found that. I've found that very helpful. I've ran campaigns before that have really low scores. It's just meta rating how they think your ad set is, but it doesn't really have an impact on the results from my experience. Going underneath that, you would see your daily budget. You would set this to what your daily ad spend will be for your client. So you can't really get results for people for less than 30. They should be spending more. In terms of the other bits, your campaign bid strategy, you can just leave that as a default. That's always going to be the highest volume. all this stuff you can completely ignore. You never put your ads in special categories. If we were to just look at these, right, these are things that you're going to need. I don't really know what the word is. You're going to need like accreditations to prove that you've got license to run these type of campaigns, or they can be high interest audiences. So like financial service products or housing leads. Meta understands that you can take a lot of money from these people. So like every time I've ran campaigns in these sections, the cost per lead has just been crazy high. If my walkthrough video is going over your head, don't worry. If you look into the presentation, I wrote out everything that you need in bullet points. So definitely go over this and then do it whilst you're watching the video. I've put in here all of the settings that you need, but the majority of it is literally just leaving it on the default. So that's really all there is in terms of creating the campaign. You've named it correctly. You've got your campaign budget turned on. You've set the daily ad spend. Then we can go ahead and click the next button. Now, as you can see, it has moved us from the campaign level, which is marked with a folder, to a little drop down underneath marked by a couple of squares. Now that means we're in the ad set level. You'll notice that there's a big red pop-up that says you can't run ads, and there's this massive review error that comes in. You've got to accept Meta's lead generation advertising terms before you can run the campaign. You can do that by going ahead and clicking on terms and then clicking agree. Then hopefully this moves. Yeah, perfect, cool. Right, so in terms of the conversion locations, which is this bit, you're always going to select instant forms. There are multiple different ways that you can run lead generation ads, but again, the simplest one is going to be when someone clicks on your ad, a form pops up, and you can just fill in your details. I'll tell you the main reasons why this is the best way. Instagram and Facebook, they make all of their money off selling your attention. The old-fashioned way of doing this is someone used to click on an ad and then they get taken to a landing page and then they fill out the information, right? When that happens, Meta and Instagram, they can't sell your attention because you're off the platform. So typically, they charge you a little bit more for doing that. Also, the nature of that person, when they're procrastinating on Facebook and Instagram, they've come on there to just play around on there. They haven't come on there to get taken off it. So the best way to give a good experience is someone to click on your ad and then they can just fill out a form. It won't take them very long. And then they just click submit and then they crack on with whatever they're doing. And they don't have to leave the app. In my opinion, that gives a better customer experience because these people just want to crack on with whatever they're doing. Most people do not like ads, so make it short and fast. And then also Meta likes it as well because you're keeping them on the platform, which means they can sell their attention and monetize them. So they reward you with slightly cheaper leads. The next thing, obviously, is making sure that you've selected the right Facebook page. If you had multiple accounts that you were managing in there, you click the drop-down menu. But just make sure you're clicking on the page that you want to be running the ads. Your performance goal is always going to be just a default setting here, which is to maximize the number of leads that you're getting. Cost per result, you can completely ignore this. Value rules as well, you can ignore it. Dynamic creative, you can ignore it. Budget and schedule, because we are running this as an as a CBO campaign, not an ABO campaign, campaign budget optimization. That means that bulk £30 a day is going to be dispersed between where the algorithm thinks. So you can completely ignore that. And then you're going to come down here to this section, which is the audience section, which is obviously how we do our targeting. And I'll tell you some of the secrets that I found from spending over £1 million in ad spend. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, since Advantage Plus was introduced within Meta ads, targeting has become far less important. And, usually that disappoints people because 90% of the time, when you want someone to teach you their strategies on Meta advertising, or when clients speak to you, they seem to think that there's just some magic button targeting hack that you can do. And then Meta starts showing your ad just to this audience, and that's what makes it work. It literally barely makes any difference. The most important targeting thing, which we'll have a whole separate video on, is the messaging in your ad. Obviously, you guys will have watched the ad creative videos that I did for you already. You need to have a very clear call out in your ad that says, hey, if you're looking for bridging finance and you're looking for teeth whitening, and then people that are interested in that will click on it in itself, and the algorithm essentially knows who clicks on the ad, and then it collects all of their data and clones it and shows it to people without you doing anything. That's essentially what Advantage Plus is doing. I've spent hours doing the most detailed targeting audiences, right, and the campaigns have completely flopped. And now I've took the same client and ran ads with literally like no targeting, and I just improved the ad and it's performed amazingly. So the audiences aren't really that important. However, anytime I've generated good results for clients, it's always been from one of the 5 audiences that I'm about to show you. Said who knows how many audiences, it's probably in the thousands, right? Anytime I've got results from people, it's been from one of these 5. So for each audience, you need to create a different ad set. One ad set should be holding one audience at a time. In ad set number 1, you should be running a campaign which is called UK Broad. This pretty much means there is no targeting. You're just doing it purely within the country that you can run your ads in. And then you're just going to allow Meta to do its magic. This one is usually the best performing one, which makes no sense, right? The next one is an interest stack. You're going to think about who is your target audience, who is your ideal customer, and you'll want to combine 10 different interests that appear in Meta, which I'll show you in a second, and you're going to cluster them all into one ad set. The third one is their job title. This won't apply for everybody, but if you're running a product which is B2B, so you're trying to service a business, type in the job titles and all the job roles of this person. Nowadays, it's quite common for someone to not just have one job title. The same job might be called 1,000 different things. So just cluster all of the relevant job titles, even if it's not the exact job title. If you think it could be interested or it's in a similar niche, cluster them all in to this audience. The fourth one is a single main interest. Obviously, you will have a good idea of what the obvious interest is of your target audience. You pick what you think the most popular one would be, and you just have it as a single thing instead of a cluster like the interest stack. And the last one is a competitor stack. You are going to target people that are interested in similar brands, or maybe your competitors. An obvious one would be, let's use clothing as an example. If you were running ads for Zara, you might target H&M, you might target Reese, you might target, I don't know, JD. But sometimes they don't have to be so obvious as that. So if I was selling stuff for a dentist, then I wouldn't necessarily just target all these different dental practices. I might target Colgate, because Colgate is toothpaste, and that might be something that a dentist is interested in. As I'm sure you can appreciate, not all of these 5 audiences will be relevant to what you're doing. It really does depend on the niche and the company that you're working with. Let's say job title wouldn't really apply to you because you're selling teeth whitening. You can just remove that and you would replace it with a main interest, a main single interest. The best targeting advice anybody's going to give you nowadays with Vantage Plus is going to be, you need to keep it broad. You need to make sure that you give Meta room to wiggle around, because what's going to happen to attain best performance, the algorithm needs a large audience to kind of go around and scan to see who would be the best fit. If you start really going too narrow with the targeting, you go in over detail, it actually doesn't help your campaign. You're essentially shrinking the size of that audience. So the algorithm goes around, scans it, and then, if it can't find people within that tiny pool of audience, then that's when you lead it to burning a lot of cash. You need to put your faith in the algorithm. It's so much smarter and faster than if you were to do manual targeting, no matter how much market research you're going to do. And remember, it's bias, and the odds are in your favor, because Meta wants your campaign to perform well, because if your campaign's performing well, then that means you're going to be spending a lot more money there. The only exception to this, and the only time I would recommend you narrowing your target audience, is if you can only serve, let's say, a specific gender. If you're selling something only to girls, yes, it does make no sense to run the ad campaign to male and female. Or if your product is very obviously suited to someone over 30, 40, or someone under 20, yeah, you can change the age groups there, or obviously the location as well. That would be the only times that you would do anything to narrow the targeting. I touched on it briefly there, but location targeting can have a massive impact on the success of your campaigns. Ideally, you pick a niche and you're working with clients that they can offer their services out to the whole of the UK, not just a certain city or town or part of the country. The narrower you make that radius where Meta can run ads to, because how it works is that you pick a location and then you can say, in 10 miles, 20 miles, 30, 50 miles from this location, it draws a big circle around it. The smaller you make that, I had someone describe it to me, and they said running ads is like going lobster fishing. So if me and you were to go lobster fishing, a lobster can be quite a rare thing to find, in the same way a customer is quite a rare thing to find. If you say, right, we're going to go lobster fishing only in this tiny pool in the depths of Oxford, there might not be that many lobsters, let alone the ones that we can catch. If we say, right, we're actually going to go fishing in the ocean of course, there's more lobsters there. So that's the reason why you want to keep it as broad as possible. And, you know, it's not 100% accurate either way. If your client is adamant that they can only work with people that are inside London, even if you put these crazy targeting parameters around London, it will improve it, but it's never 100% accurate. No matter what you do, you will have people outside of that target audience. So we're going to hop back into Ads Manager. I'm going to go ahead and create our first ad set. So in terms of the ad set name, you're going to create one of those 5 audiences I've just told you to do. You're going to call it the same thing. So in this example, let's go with interest stack. And if I scroll all of the way down, you will see a section here that says audiences. There's 2 kind of drop downs that say show more controls and show suggestions. You're going to select both of these so you can see exactly all of the buttons that you want to click. And this is where you can change, obviously, your minimum age here, or you can change the age ranges. You can pick the genders. And then in terms of your detailed targeting, it's under this section, all demographics, interests, and behaviors. You can go ahead and click this. Then let's pretend I work for a wedding photographer and he wants to target people that are interested in booking weddings. Okay, so I might type in here. I'll just type in the word wedding. Whoops. Wedding. Let's see what comes up. Wedding social concept. You know, that's the top one. And you always want to also be checking the size of these audiences. You want the biggest ones possible because, like I said, ads perform better with broad. So I'll go ahead, click that one. And then what else we got? Bride, cool. Wedding dress. I'm going to pick about 10 of these. Yeah, obviously, the algorithm a lot of the time gives you suggestions. Just doing this quickly, right? You could spend more time. I'm going for it. But that would be pretty good. A good way that you can check that it's good is if you scroll down to the bottom, it will say audience definition. You always want to make sure that this is coming up in the broad section, all right? So that would be decent. Even in this example, obviously there would be an age thing. Like it's very unlikely someone 18 years old is getting married, right? But, you know, we can just leave it. Like, I really don't think you should be doing that unless it is a clear black and white. So it doesn't really make much difference. So when you're happy with that audience, you can go ahead and click these 3 dots and you can go ahead and click duplicate. You'll click in existing campaign. Just make sure that you've picked the campaign that we just said. Click duplicate here. And obviously, instead of calling it interest stack copy, you might call this one UK broad. And again, I'll scroll down and I'm just going to delete all of the targeting that we just picked here. Whoops. Yep. And remove all of these. Cool. So the only kind of targeting parameters that I would have set here is just making sure the ad is being shown in the UK. I'll go ahead and duplicate this. And let's go for, obviously, job titles isn't going to be that applicable to me. So I'm going to go main interests. I might just type in weddings. Okay. So that's the obvious single interest that stands out. So if I go down here, I'm just going to find the most relevant wedding social concept. Okay. That's good. And then let's do one more. Obviously, I won't do another single interest one that you do here. Duplicate existing campaign. So the last one will be this competitor stack. Competitor stack. If I scroll down, remember, competitor stack doesn't have to be your direct competition. I'm trying to think of what other things would people search for if they were having a wedding, aside from needing a wedding photographer. So in this example, it might be wedding take. Yes, that's a good one. What else? Wedding dress. Yeah, you get the gist, right? So once you've built all those out, if you kind of click off this, hit close, you can see that you should have 5 in here. Obviously, I've just done 4. You should do another main interest, okay? But that will mean that you've set up the campaign correctly. You can go here, you can see the campaign. And if I clicked into the campaign, I should see 5 different ad sets here. Those of you that are observant, when we were creating our ad set, there was a section underneath audiences that refers to placements. A placement is essentially going to be where your meta ads are actually shown. Your options here are the Facebook feed, the Instagram feed, Facebook stories, Instagram stories, Reels, Facebook Marketplace, right columns, and audience network. Now, again, this is working in the same way. Just let the algorithm do its job. If you don't put any targeting parameters on here, the algorithm will go to the data-driven decision, their version of where it thinks you're getting the best results. You don't need to overcomplicate it, right? So you don't even need to touch this. Again, I've ran campaigns before where I said, right, obviously my customer is only on Instagram, so I'll show it on the feed and Insta stories. You will get better results if you just completely leave this. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. Targeting and picking audiences, people want to overcomplicate it, but the best way to get the best results is to keep it broad and just let the algorithm do its magic. Join me in the next video where we're going to be showing you how to create your ads.